So we're going over to Denver now. Louis Sebastian, found guilty in downtown Boulder murder trial. You might be thinking, Ron, what's going on? This is just a random murder that happened in Colorado. We get it. We talk about all kinds of things on this show. But you brought this up. You wanted to talk about this today. Why? All right, so in the summer of 2017, a Boulder croquet party intertwined the fates of two strangers. Later that night, one of those men lost his life. 2 years later, the other found he would spend the rest of his in prison. Louis Sebastian was found guilty of first-degree murder in the fatal shooting of Christopher King in a downtown Boulder restaurant. As a Boulder County jury on Friday came to the conclusion Sebastian's actions that night were not self-defense. Sebastian, who is 33 years old, did not react as Boulder District Judge Andrew Hartman read the verdict at 11 a.m. Friday, following about 5 hours of jury deliberation over 2 days. Sebastian was also convicted of unlawfully carrying a concealed weapon. Immediately following the verdict, Hartman sentenced Sebastian to the mandatory life sentence in prison, without the possibility of parole on the first-degree murder count. He also sentenced Sebastian to 634 days time served on the concealed weapons charge before Sebastian was led out by of the courtroom by deputies. King's family members were not able to make it to the trial, but Boulder County District Attorney Michael Doherty called them shortly after the verdict was read. So, I admittedly have looked into this a little more, and what happened was they were at an event, the two people, this Mr. King and Mr. Sebastian, and they were arguing over a girl. Apparently, they were both kind of flirting with her, and they were arguing over her, and it got a little hostile between them. And this whole time, Louis Sebastian had a gun on him because he carried a gun. He did not have a permit to do this, but he carried a gun. And so things kind of mellowed out between them, and then the bill came for the restaurant, and Mr. King allegedly didn't put enough money in, and other people felt that way too. Louis wasn't the only one. Louis Sebastian wasn't the only one going like, hey, you didn't throw in enough money. Apparently other people there were like, hey, dude, you're kind of stiffing the bill a little bit. You're not paying your fair share with what you got. Do you want to do that? And I guess Mr. King got argumentative again, and Louis Sebastian got on Mr. King a second time. They started arguing again. They started butting heads. When they went outside, they started fighting. This led to Louis Sebastian shooting him. Now, Louis Sebastian claims it was in self-defense. He was attacked, and apparently that was the case, that he was attacked, that this guy, went at him. But then the way the witnesses reported it is that when the gun was drawn, the guy was, he shot the guy a couple times, and the guy stammered back into the restaurant and was begging for his life, and Mr. Sebastian got about 5 feet away from him and shot him dead. So they're saying that wasn't self-defense. That's not self-defense. This guy was pleading for his life, begging, and you shot him dead. That's not self-defense. That's what the jury decided. And this is based off of witness testimony. And of course, Louis Sebastian's, he's saying, look, I was attacked and I don't, I just acted to defend myself. And, so anyway, that's the ins and outs of that case. And you're probably still wondering, Ron, why are you bringing up this random murder? Why are we talking about this today? Why was this a big deal for you to bring up? Because I knew Louis Sebastian. I went to high school with him, and I knew him post-high school a little bit too. So here's how I want to start this story. I heard about this via the Facebook of somebody who I went to high school with. I'm still Facebook friends with some of the old people I knew in high school. And a guy that I went to high school with, we'll refer to him as Jay. Jay posted this, and he said, man, here's a crazy story about someone I graduated with. And one day I posted, this reminds me of a post I made in 2017. So one day Jay posted a thing making fun of Trump. It was like a meme making fun of Donald Trump. And Louis got on that thread and started getting real combative about it. He was like, oh, that's not funny and blah, 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 and you're so stupid, and Democrats are dumb, and they have no sense of humor. And a bunch of people jumped in and they were like, what are you even talking about? Dude, it's just a thing. And he's like, I'm a libertarian and blah, blah, blah. And he got real combative about it. Now, someone else that I also went to high school commented under that and said, I remember that thread. And the reason I remember it so well is because it seems so weird coming from Lewis, because he used to be so left-leaning, and then all of a sudden he had this big 180. Like, when I saw those comments, I actually wondered, the other person saying this, I actually wondered if his Facebook account was hacked, because it seems so out of character coming from him. Now, fast forward to my experience with Lewis. Now, my experience with Lewis was very similar to this entire Facebook thread, and what Jay mentioned and what the other person mentioned, who said, man, what a 180. So I knew Lewis in high school. When I moved back to Pittsburgh, it was to go to graduate school. Around that same time, Lewis also moved back to Pittsburgh. He reached out to me via Facebook, and he would come out to some of my shows. That was the only time I'd see him. Like, we never actually hung out, but he would come out to my shows. And this was around the time that I put together my media. Like, I used to do a media lecture at colleges where I would talk about media consolidation and, how to kind of navigate through it and be civically engaged. I did like a kind of satirical lecture on that I would do at colleges. And when I initially put it together, I launched it at a theater in Pittsburgh, because I was still living in Pittsburgh at the time. So I did that. And Lewis came out to it. And he sent me these real encouraging messages. He came out to, I think I did 4 of them once a month. He came out to, I believe, 3 of them. I think he came to almost every single one. And he wrote me this big, long thing, giving me feedback on it. And he actually, at one point, I won't forget this, he said, to not be afraid to kind of let my leftiness shine through. I guess he thought I was holding back a little bit. I don't know if I was or wasn't, but, he kind of said, he felt like I was, and I should really just let it punch on through. So I took that to heart. I was like, all right, I'm going to make sure I do that. And yeah, he was just this he was always not one to shy away from a debate. And he was always one not shy to, shy away from confrontation. But he was never combative or anything like that. And he was always kind of a to-himself guy. I don't remember him ever having another person with him, for instance. Whenever Lou would come to my shows, he always just came alone. He came alone and he would talk to me and then he would leave. He just didn't... Yeah, I got the vibe he wasn't a crazy social guy. And he wasn't in high school either. Lou was always kind of to himself. I'm not saying this to be disparaging, but I don't remember anybody that was actually friends with Lou. A lot of people knew him. No one had an issue with him. He was a nice guy or whatever in high school. But anyway, so fast forward a little bit. So that was my experience with Lou in person. When I lived in Pittsburgh, which would have been from about 2010 to 2012, Lou would come out to my shows. He was into my media thing. And he seemed to be a left-leaning dude. A couple years later, Lou does some complete political 180. And basically everything I post, Lou kind of starts trolling. And I think I posted something when the Confederate flag came down in Columbia, South Carolina. I was there. I was actually present for it, and I was talking about it. And I think it's a good thing that it came down. I was in favor of it, and I was talking about why. And Lou got super offended by that. Lou disagreed. He said that I was ignorant and this and that. And I responded, and other people responded, and, pretty much nobody was on Lou's side. And he got really, really combative to the point where I kind of, he started calling people some names and stuff. And I had to I think I just deleted the post because it was on my personal Facebook. And then I never really heard from him again until now, where he murdered somebody. So it was a trippy thing. Now, I'm certainly not implying that, he changed his political views and got violent. I have no idea. I have no idea if he's had issues with rage his whole life. I don't know. I don't know what prompted this huge political 180 in him. It was just very peculiar that all of a sudden this guy, and I'm not the only person that had that experience. Other people that I went to high school with had that same experience. We're like, yeah, we remembered him as like this chill dude who actually had different political convictions. They were more to the left. Then all of a sudden he went to this like kind of far right Alex Jonesy type, because that's where Lewis was politically. He was kind of fringe Alex Jones type views, and he started becoming really combative on Facebook. It wasn't just, debate or discussion. It got mean. He took it to a mean place really quick. And I actually looked at the thread from Jay's thread, and, real quick, he started calling people snowflakes. He started calling people, he started referring to things as gay. And then he's like, oh, I bet you want to get on my case because I'm a straight white man calling things gay. And it's like, well, no, we're just kind of marveled at your lack of a decent vocabulary and your ignorance. I don't know what you're like. It was like he wanted to, like he posted like somebody who wanted people to hate him. You know what I mean? And he had not done that before. And that's what he did on my thread as well. Like he posted not just like someone who had a strong disagreement, but somebody who wanted to be combative and wanted people to hate him. And I've never understood that. Like, I've never understood that type of mentality where you just want people to hate you. I mean, there's enough hate in the world. You don't need to drum more up on a message board online or in a comment thread online. So I wanted to talk about this story today because it's kind of when I saw it, it was kind of a trippy thing. And, this is somebody that I've known for over half my life at this point, and I never knew him well. We were never friends, necessarily. And, I can't help but get in my head a little bit about it because I've never... I mean, first of all, this is the first murderer I know. I don't know any, but I've known... Well, unless you count suicides. I know, unfortunately, I can say I know a lot of people who have killed themselves. That's, in comedy, that's unfortunately not an uncommon thing. But this is the first person I've ever known that has murdered somebody. So that's just kind of trippy on its own. And then the fact that I've had this weird experience with this person. And then I can't help wonder, I'm like, gee, maybe in Pittsburgh he kind of wanted to be my friend, but didn't want to, like he came out to the show hoping that maybe I'd be like, hey, we should hang out. I have no idea. Like I don't know. But it's one of those things you can't help but get in your head about. So I guess I want to end the show today. I kind of wanted to turn it over to you guys and just ask you if you've had any experience where somebody that you knew growing up took a total 180 and not just politically. I'm not implying that because this dude had a political shift that led him to this. I have no idea if those are related or not. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I have no clue. I'm just observing how peculiar it is that he had this crazy shift and then he got real combative when he had this shift, and then it led to, obviously, it was real life violence as well. And I don't know if he had other, for instances. I mean, maybe he got in fights all the time. I have no idea. He's not a particularly big dude or anything like that. Like, he's an average sized guy from what I remember anyway. So let me see what you guys are saying. I think you guys get the point. Haley says it sounds like a nervous breakdown. Snork is saying it could have been a brain tumor. I have no idea. Slow News Day says, in a weird reversal of that psycho used to go to my shows, the guy who Joey Diaz kidnapped 30 years ago went out to Joey's show. They made up. It was kind of adorable. Interesting. I am not familiar with that story, Slow News Day, but that's very interesting. That's an interesting story. I'd be curious to know more about it. Joey Diaz is a really funny guy. Very, very funny guy. I had to follow him once, and I was so fucking nervous. I think I told that story on the stream before, but one night it was at Flappers Comedy Club. I was going last on a show, and Joey Diaz was the pop-in special guest. And he was kind of depressed because I think one of his cats had just died. So Joey Diaz was just going around getting on stage as much as he could. And they were like, hey, Joey Diaz is going up right before you. And I was like, fuck! I have to follow him? And I was nervous. I mean, that guy is a comedy veteran, and he's one of the greats. He is one of the greats. And it was kind of intimidating having to follow somebody that good. And it went okay. I mean, it went good, fortunately. I mean, fortunately, the audience was so stoked because he crushed, and it was just such a high-energy show through and through, and everybody was having so much fun that I was just able to land the plane. I was just able to take that energy, do my jokes, bam, 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 peace. But holy shit, was I scared following, as Chip says, his nickname, Uncle Joey. I was scared following Uncle Joey, man. But fortunately, it was, man. Guy, hey, Ron, love hearing your thoughts. Thank you, Guy. I appreciate that. David, Ron, you're a comic. Any thoughts on the HBO show Crashing? I've not seen it. I'm not familiar with it. My big addiction right now is True Detective. So I watched the most recent season, which I won't give anything away because some of you guys might want to watch it or you're still working on it and you haven't finished it yet. The finale just aired last week. I was a little disappointed with the ending. I'll say that. I thought it was a little anticlimactic. And now I'm watching the first season because I hadn't seen the first season. From what I've been told, the first season's really good. The second season kind of sucks. That's what I was told as far as True Detective goes. As far as Crashing goes, I've not seen it. And my heart is still hurting that Netflix canceled The Punisher. And I think they canceled it because of the deal with Disney. I'm pretty sure Disney wouldn't license the characters. So Netflix had to cancel all of their Marvel shows, which is a bummer. So Lucy 2020 is seeking a cat food sponsor with access to private jet for campaign travel, says Fred. Lucy, if she had to travel, she would want to travel via plane. She does not like the car very much. So, yeah. And thank you guys for the kind Lucy words. Sazam asks, how was Lewis's financial situation? Do you think socialized healthcare might have provided him mental help he wasn't getting? I have no idea. I don't have the answer to that. I think, of course, a universal health system would allow people like him to get mental help if they needed it. Absolutely. And that is one of many, 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 many reasons why I am for a universal single-payer system. One of many reasons. And what's interesting is in my conversations with him back when he used to come to my shows, Lewis was in favor of that too. And then he took this crazy turn. But as far as his financial situation, I have no idea. I had not been in touch with the guy for years. He was living out in Colorado. He moved out there. I lost touch with him basically after I left Pittsburgh, and then he left Pittsburgh shortly after me, I think. I didn't have any contact with him until he randomly just started trolling everything I posted on Facebook. Not everything, but yeah, the flag thing was his big, like, he was so upset about that, and he started telling me that, and he started saying, like, I'm a big phony, and I'm a show business phony, and this and that, and I don't remember verbatim everything he said, but it was, it was just kind of like, is this the same guy? You know, like, I was like, is this the same guy? Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and